I think I have found my new favourite book of the year. Loved it. 5 stars. Of my fantasy era. Didn't like that. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I make loads of bookish content here on this channel. Today we are going to be doing a reading wrap up of every single book that I read in June and July, because I realised that I didn't do a wrap up for either of those months and it is now August, so we've got some catching up to do. Also, just a quick side note, I'm really sorry if you can hear the fan, but it is so hot in London today and the flat is just so hot that it's too, like, I just can't not have the fan on, so I'm really sorry that if it's annoying. I hope it isn't. I hope you can't hear it. But we need to go through all of the books that I read in June and July, so let's get started. I've got my Fable list up on my iPad so we can go through all of the books that I read. I read so many on my Kindle, so I don't have physical books of them all, but as always I'll go through the books that I read and my ratings and my thoughts. The first book that I read in June was actually The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, because believe it or not, I've actually never read the series before. I've only watched the films, and as a lover of The Hunger Games when I was a kid, I was like, I really want to read the books one day. So I got all of the books on my Kindle and I read them. And the first book, I actually really enjoyed the first book. It felt very close to what happened in the films. So for me, it felt very familiar and it was really just quite nostalgic to read it. I rated it 4 stars. It wasn't like an outstanding book for me, but I did really enjoy it and it felt so nostalgic that I just loved it. And then straight after, I basically binged the series. I read Catching Fire, and that is the second book in the series, which I also rated 4 stars. And to be honest, I don't really have a lot to say about these books other than they were really addicting, they were really fun. I read all of them one after the other, so I properly binged the series. Mockingjay, I actually rated 5 stars because I really loved that one. It was so emotional, like especially at the end. I remember I was just thinking like literally my Fable review is guess I'm crying myself to sleep tonight, because that is how much it literally just hit a spot. Then the next book in the series is The Ballad of the Songbird and the Snakes, and that one I actually only rated 3 stars. For me, that book just felt way too long. It felt unnecessary and it felt way too long. Like, I don't understand why that one was actually longer than, I think it was longer than Mockingjay, and I didn't really understand it. I didn't really care for Snow's perspective. I think in some ways it was quite nice to get a little bit of his background to kind of explain why he is the way that he is. But if he was just always like that, then I don't feel like it was necessary, and I just don't really feel like it added that much. I don't know, let me know what you think of that book if you've read the whole series, because I'm just a bit conflicted on it. I just feel like I just didn't enjoy it. I did rate it 3 stars because, I don't know why I rated it 3 stars. Well, I rated it 3 stars, so it wasn't like terrible, but I just found it a little bit slow and I just didn't love it. And then the last book, which is the most recent one, Sunrise on the Reaping. Now that was the book that I was the most excited for, because that one is the only one in the series currently that doesn't have a film, and that one follows Haymitch. So I was so excited to get a little bit of his background and just like learn more about that character. Now that one I rated 5 stars and that was incredible. Like, I'd highly recommend reading the series even if you have watched the films, because in the sort of the later books you do get more out of the books than you do with the films. I'd say the first couple of books, the films are quite close to what happens in the books, but then from there it kind of, you start to get a little bit more background, because what happened was me and Alex decided to watch the films after I read the books. So I was kind of like reading the book and then watching the film, and I did see a lot of differences in like Mockingjay and stuff like that, and I do feel like in the films it isn't quite as emotional as it is in the books. So if you haven't read the Hunger Games series yet, I actually would recommend giving it a read, because it was quite a good series and I did really enjoy it. But I'd say as a series as a whole, I'd probably rate it maybe like a 3.5 to a 4-star series, just because it was good. But if we compare it to some of the fantasy series that I've read in the past, it doesn't quite hit up. But I still really enjoyed it and I loved every minute of the series, so it was good to read. And then in between reading the Hunger Games series, I actually listened to the audiobook of Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I am so glad that I listened to that rather than read it. I did end up buying the Kindle version of the book because I'm pretty sure it was only like £3 or something. And the way that it was written is literally like script, so like this character and then the speech dialogue, like it. So I think if I was reading it, it wouldn't have had the same impact as if I was listening to it. So I'm really glad that I listened to the audiobook rather than reading the book. This one I rated 4 stars, and I think I wouldn't have rated it that highly if I had read the book, which I don't often say about audiobooks, but it was just done so well. And if you haven't heard of Daisy Jones and the Six before, it basically follows like a band. I think it's set in like the 80s or something. It's like a rock band, and it follows their life from starting the band and then like beyond that. And it was actually really interesting, and it was so good. The actors were so perfect for this book. Like, I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend listening to it rather than reading it, but it was such a good read, and I'm so glad that I listened to it. I rated that one 4 stars. And then I read Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Now, this book was the book club book of the month for June. If you don't know, then I have my own book club over on Fable. There's a link in the description if you want to join us. But in June we read Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I've seen a lot of differing opinions about this book online, but I will just say that I loved it. Like 5 flipping stars. So good. I just felt like this was written so beautifully, but it was also so heartbreaking. But I do think, I've only read a couple of Abby Jimenez books, but the books that I have read, I feel like she writes about such hard hitting topics, but she also writes a love story within that. So while it is like devastatingly sad, it's also really happy and so beautiful at the same time. So I absolutely loved this book, and I would really recommend it. Like, it was just such a cutesy read. I wouldn't say it was fun because it was quite sad, and at times it did feel really sad and just quite difficult to read, but it was just so good. Definitely check kind of like trigger warnings and stuff before you read this one, but I would really recommend it. Like, I absolutely loved it. I had such a great time. Next I read 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and I have been so excited to read this one because so many people kept telling me that I needed to read this at some point, so I was very excited that I finally decided to pick it up. But this was such a fun read. Again, I really enjoyed it. This one is a lot more light-hearted than Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, and I think that's exactly what I needed after some like hard-hitting topics. This one was much easier to read, and it just felt more light-hearted and fun. In this book we've got Clementine, who's our main character, and she inherits her aunt's apartment, but it's not like a normal apartment, it's a magic apartment, and sometimes it skips either 7 years in the past or 7 years in the future. And then one day she's like in her apartment, and there's this guy in her kitchen because the apartment has like jumped basically, and he's like the perfect guy basically. Then it follows her trying to find this guy because she actually met him 7 years in the past, and it is just so fun and cutesy. Like, if you need a really easy to read romance that's not that hard hitting, you're gonna love this book. It's just really fun to read, and I would really recommend it. This is the only book I've read of Ashley Poston, but it's definitely not going to be the last. I think I'll definitely pick up another one of hers at some point. And yeah, I also rated this one 5 stars. And then the next book that I read was Drowned in the Name of Love by Ruth S. Diaz, and I rated this one 4 stars. So this one is like a very whimsical fantasy. If you've read Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, I think you'll really like this book because it was just very whimsical. It's very for like the soft-hearted, like feminine girls, and I really enjoyed it. And you know, sometimes with fantasy books, the female main character is like an assassin, and she's really like strong and badass and stuff like that. For me personally, I can't relate to that because that is not me. Honestly, put me in a fantasy world and I'll be dead in 5 minutes. Like, it's just, that is not me at all. But this book, I felt like I really related to the character because she's very soft, very girly, and she likes her dresses and stuff like that. So I really liked it because it felt a bit different, and it felt a bit more realistic to me as a person, if that makes sense. I mean, obviously I'm not a pirate, so it's not realistic to me in any way, but you get what I'm saying. I would actually definitely recommend checking it out if you love like a nice whimsical fantasy, and it felt like quite a nice one to read in the summer as well because it was all about being in the sea and like pirates and stuff. I don't know, it was just fun and I really enjoyed it. So that one I rated 4 stars. And then the next book that I read was Wildside by Elsie Silver, and this one, okay, I love Elsie Silver's books normally, but this one I just didn't gel with. Like, it wasn't a bad book. I rated it 3.75 stars and it was still good, but our main character Reese is a wrestler, and I didn't like that. I just found it really icky. I don't know why. I just didn't enjoy it that much. Like, the fact that he was out wrestling, like, I just found it really cringy. And I also just didn't really like the main character Tabby, I think her name is. Like, I just found her a bit annoying as well. So like, realistically, this book isn't bad. I just didn't really like the characters in it, but it is really good. This is the 3rd book in the Rose Hill series, by the way, if you haven't read that series yet. It's a small town series following single dads. So it is quite a lovely kind of like wholesome series, but this is definitely my least favorite. The other books in the series are Wild Love and Wild Eyes, and for me both of those books were 5 stars, so this one didn't really live up to the other two, which I thought was a bit disappointing. But she has got the 4th and final book, Wildcard, coming out I think in September. So yeah, I'm really excited for the last book in the series, and I'm hoping it's better than this one because I just didn't really gel with it, to be honest. Like I found it a bit cringy, I can't lie. And then that was all of the books that I read in June. Technically I started this one in June and finished it in July, but we're kind of blending the two, so it doesn't really matter. But then it was July, and our July book club book was Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, and I wanted to read this one immediately because I was really wanting to read One Golden Summer. And you don't have to, but it is recommended by Carly herself to read Every Summer After before One Golden Summer, because the characters in One Golden Summer are in this book too, so you kind of want to read them so that they're linked. So in this book we have our main characters Percy and Sam, and they meet when they are children in, I think it's like Barry's Bay or something like that, and they obviously fall in love, and then stuff happens and Sam's mum dies, and then Percy has to go back to her hometown to go to the funeral, and then she reconnects with Sam. And again, this was just devastatingly beautiful. Like I rated this one 5 stars. I don't know what it is about Carly, but she always seems to make me cry with happiness at the end of her books, and I don't know why, but I just love it. Like if a book can make me cry, it's an immediate 5 stars. So no surprise that this book is 5 stars for me. I really enjoyed it. She's, again, like Abby Jimenez, quite good at writing really devastating storylines, but in a way that is so beautiful that you just can't put it down. I read this one so quickly and I really enjoyed it. And then after that, I'd read quite a few romance books, so I kind of wanted to go into a bit more of my fantasy era, and I started reading Phantasma and Enchantra. So those are 2 books written by Kaylee Smith, and they're like a fantasy, I think it's like a dark romance fantasy series. I enjoyed the books, don't get me wrong. I thought that they were quite fun, but I didn't rate them very highly. I only rated them 3.75 stars. So they weren't bad books, but I felt like I just didn't really gel with them. I don't really know why. And I would say that Phantasma gave me Caraval vibes if Caraval was an older version, because I know Caraval is like YA. So Phantasma kind of gave me like an adult version of Caraval. So I kind of enjoyed that aspect because I like the games and the magic system is really interesting, and I just really enjoyed it. But I wouldn't say that it was my favourite series of all time, so that's why I rated them 3.75 stars. And then it was time for One Golden Summer, and again, 5 stars. This book I think I preferred actually over Every Summer After. It was just so beautiful. So in One Golden Summer we follow Charlie, who is Sam's brother. So that's why they say to read this book first, because this book is set after. So this is the order that you read them in. It was just a really heartfelt story and I really enjoyed it. It's like 370 pages, but I honestly could have read so many more pages of this. Like I just loved it. It was so wholesome, it was so cute, it was so fun. Like, oh, I think Carly is definitely up there with one of my favourite romance authors, because I think she's just brilliant at writing really beautiful books that make you cry. And again, of course, I cried at the end of this book too. And then I decided to read Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Malors, and this is the first book by her that I have ever read. I was so convinced that this was going to be a 5 stars, and it just was not a 5 stars at all. Like there was just something about this book that I just did not vibe with. I hated the okay, maybe hate is a bit of a strong word, but I did not like the characters. I thought they were so pretentious, they were so annoying. Oh, they just, I don't know what it was, they just really annoyed me. And I thought I was gonna love this because this book is set in New York and it's all about this girl in her 20s and she's like figuring out her life, and I just thought, wow, that is gonna be a bit of me. No, it was not a bit of me. Like I just didn't like it at all. At the start of the book I thought, well, this is just starting a little bit slow, but and like I always find that when I start reading a new book by an author that I haven't read before, it sometimes does take me a little while to kind of like get into it, because obviously every writer has like a different writing style, and there's like some people that are like quite similar, like I would say Abby Jimenez and like Emily Henry and like Carly Fortune. Like you sort of know what to expect of those kind of books. So I didn't really vibe with it. I did think that maybe as you kind of get to know the characters and you get a bit more like background story as the story goes on, like maybe I would would grow to love it, like, because sometimes I think books can grow on you, but it just didn't, to be honest. It was weird because I didn't really want to pick it up, but then when I was reading it, I was into it, like I was immersed in the story, but yeah, it just wasn't for me. I ended up rating this one 3 stars in the end. And then, okay, I think I have found my new favourite book of the year, and that was Diabound by Sable Sorensen. My god. Guys, if you haven't read this book, I urge you to go and get it on your Kindle because I'm pretty sure it's still 99p, and read it right now. This book is indie published and it is going to get traditionally published, I think, so you need to read it right now. This was the perfect romantasy. Like, it was 5 stars. I have no notes. Like, it was actually just perfect. Honestly, from page 1 I was completely hooked. It gave me the same vibes as Fourth Wing. Like, it's not the same as Fourth Wing. We don't have dragons. It's not that, like, it's not that kind of vibe, but it's that like war college, like academy setting, and there was strong romance in the plot, guys. It was just amazing. Like, honestly, the easiest 5 stars I have given a book all year. Like, straight away I just knew it's gonna be 5 stars. We have like wolves instead of dragons in this book, so I kind of was putting off reading it because I was like, I don't know if I'm really like a wolves kind of girl, but it turns out that I actually love it. Like 10 out of 10, honestly. If you're gonna read one book from this vlog, choose that one, because that one was the best one that I've read so far. Oh, and it's also going to be a series. I think the next book is called Fury Bound, but now because it's being traditionally published, the second book isn't going to come out until next year, which I'm kind of gutted about because honestly I could have read the second book like straight away, but it's not out yet, so I can't. But I'd highly recommend it because it was amazing. So roll on next year because I need to know what happens next. And then after that, I wanted to continue reading the Crowns of Nyaxia series because the new one has literally just been released, and I'd only read the first 2 books and the first novella, and I really enjoyed this series. It's about vampires, so it's like cool, it's fun. I love it so much. I think Carissa Broadbent is great, but I think because I had just read Diabound and that was like literally a 10 out of 10, Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, which is the second novella in the series, it just didn't hit. I think it would have hit so much more if I hadn't have just read Diabound. I think that is the catch-22 when you read such an incredible book. The next book that you read is never going to live up to the same hype. I feel like it does impact the rating a little bit. I rated Slaying the Vampire Conqueror 3 stars because it was still really good, and I actually think that I would have rated it so much higher if I hadn't have just read Diabound. So like, I'm really sorry, but like it didn't give me that feeling, you know. But it was fun, it was really enjoyable, and I think the good thing about the novellas is that they are connected just enough to the main part of the series that you still feel like immersed in the universe, but they're also not necessary, and you can sort of read them whenever you want. If you want, I can film like a reading order so you know where to read the books, because I think it does get a little bit confusing, but it is recommended to read after The Ashes of the Star-Cursed King and before The Songbird and the Heart of Stone. That is all of the books that I read in June and July. I believe it's 16, but I haven't counted them. I think that's right. And I would say it was actually pretty good in terms of like my ratings. I think I had some really highly rated books in there, and I definitely found some new favourites. Hello Diabound, I'm talking about you. But yeah, I definitely think like the past 2 months have been such good reading months. In terms of my TBR for August, I don't know what I'm going to be reading, to be honest. I'm definitely going to be finishing the Crowns of Nyaxia universe, or like the books that are out currently for that, because if you don't know, if you don't follow my book talk, I'm actually doing a TBR challenge where I'm reading every single book on my TBR before I buy any new ones, because I'm actually saving up to do a Pilates course. So I'm trying to save money by not buying books, and so far it's going really well. I'm really enjoying it. So make sure you follow me on my book talk so that you can keep up with my challenge, because I'm actually having the best time. So at the minute I don't really know what I'm going to be reading, because it's all going to be down to what I pick out of the TBR jar. But if you want to see that kind of like, if you want to see me do the challenge, then drop me a follow. The link is in the description box, and I'm also going to be posting it on my shorts too, so you know, watch out for those. Thank you so much for joining me on this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any videos from me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!